Welcome everybody for another day, for another chance to have a look at what's happening on the water. Right along with our sailors, you are joining us here on leg 2 of the Ocean Race Europe 2025, and it's been a very eventful leg, and it's been eventful because some people have really stuck their neck out. Some people have really tried to seal up first position, tried to claim maybe 10, maybe 15, maybe 20 mile advantage with a single move, just trying to judge the tide and the wind to perfection. And did it pay off? And no, it didn't pay off. I mean, it really didn't pay off. And what we had was we had a massive compression of the entire fleet. And we are back now into a drag race where those boats that were left behind at the start have been given a second chance. And those boats that worked tirelessly all night have nothing to show for it. Now we're going to take a little look at exactly what happened from the start on Sunday in Cowes, when the boats came out of Portsmouth and went onto the Solent. We'll take a look back at all of that, and we're also going to see what's been happening on the water and how our sailors are standing up to this pressure. So this was the start. This is how it kind of all rolled out, and it was in, well, where that start line was in 1973, the start line of the Royal Yacht Squadron, there in Cowes. It's the start line for the Fastnet. But it was, on Sunday, the start line for leg 2 from Portsmouth down to Cartagena via Porto. Biotherm, they continued their flawless run. They got the 2 points for being first to the scoring gate. Paprika Arkea got 1. And then from the Solent, the boats just really stretched their legs out into the open sea as they were heading down to the southwest. But then things got very interesting. The breeze really died, and they died just on that northwestern coast, Ushant, the coast of France. And here, the boats were trying to dive on the inside of the islands, trying to get their way through the little passageway and hopefully get onto the right side of the tide, but the wind was a bit too cruel and they didn't manage to do it. And the reason you're seeing some very glum faces there is that turn, that handbrake turn in the middle of the night when they realised that the tide was not letting them through. And the leading 3 boats had to make a big adjustment, really push out to the northwest, essentially going away from the finish line to try and stop the bleeding. And for Corentin Horu, those eyes, those bloodshot eyes, that's a full night of working hard with nothing to show for it. So there you go. First to last for Paprika Arkea, Johan Richomme and the rest of the team. I mean, they burnt some calories. They've had a very stressful ride. And they had no sleep. And it wasn't just Paprika Arkea. Team Militia fared okay. Holcim PRB did all right. Biotherm just about scraped through. But really, Paprika Arkea was probably the worst hit. And it comes it's even harsher, it's even crueler when you consider not how much they've lost, but where they are now. So while we join the boats, I'm just going to bring up the tracker, and we can take a little look to see exactly how all that played out. Now, as I say, the boats were coming out from Portsmouth, and if I just wind the timeline back, we'll get to the point where they were at Ushant, and you can see just how different the approaches were. So we had these leading 3-4 boats. Paprika Arkea, we had Alegrande Mappe. Oh, wow. I mean, Ambrosio Beccaria, he was smiling. He was really having a good start to this leg, really doing well after repairing that boat and rejoining the race. They're doing nicely here, and the breeze just really starts to hurt for them. And they just get held up in this little spot, and everyone behind comes roaring through, closing down the miles. And they're not just closing, but also slipping past. We've got Canada Ocean Racing B Wars and Positive to the northwest, and they are actually the first boat to get close to Ushant, close to the lighthouse. Biotherm just about stems the bleeding, manages to slip through, and they go into first place. But it's Paprika right the way at the back. If we do a big fast forward now to where we are at this moment, you can see just how tight that group of 5 is. Team Amala slipped a little bit further back. That's only happened in the last 3-4 hours. Maybe I'm being a little bit generous there, but they've actually been holding the pace quite well compared to the others. Alagrande Mappe has pushed themselves right the way down here, and at the moment, in terms of distance, they've spread themselves around about 11 miles from the fleet. So that's the state of play. That's where everyone is, and that's why we're seeing a lot of sad faces. So the question is, Johan Rochon in the last leg, on leg 1, dived for something coming into the English coast, dived down to the south of Dover, while Team Militia stuck close to the coast, playing the tide, playing the breeze, and it was really there where Paprika lost a huge amount of miles. From there, Team Militia were able to reel them in, overtake them, and pip them to the finish. And then again, we have Paprika doing really nicely in this leg, going for something really bold. I mean, it wasn't just a shot in the dark. There was very much a legitimate hope, but we reckon that they missed the tide by about half an hour. If only that breeze had been a little bit better. But it's another gamble. It's another gamble that didn't pay off. Same for Alagrande Mappe as well. Another gamble that didn't pay off. So my question is does Johan Rochon need to start being conservative? Or is this the time actually when it's better to double down? Is this the point where you go, no, I need to go bigger? It's going to be those gambles that are actually going to win you the race. A little bit of a contrast for Ambrosio Beccaria. I have seen this guy smile. I've seen him excited. I've seen him crushed. There was almost tears in his eyes when his boat and Holcim PRB came together in Kiel. Then on the dock in Portsmouth, once again, all smiles because he'd actually got the boat there. They'd cut through the canal. They'd made it across the North Sea. They're ready to rejoin the racing. And at the moment, they are doing the other option. We're talking about gambling, talking about playing it safe. Beccaria is pushing further south and further east. He is separating from the rest of the field. Now, you know that he needs to make up an awful lot of time here. You know, he needs to make up an awful lot of points as well. They missed out on all the points from the first leg. So maybe that gamble, maybe that push is what this is all about. You know, if you're really going out there to win, you've got to do something big on this leg to kind of reignite those hopes. And where they are, 10 miles south, they'll see none of the other boats. Now, there'll be nothing out there on the horizon. However, you just saw Thomas Rien on the nav station. He will be able to keep some eye on the rest of the field through the AIS system on the computer screen, showing them where the other boats are, giving them sort of real-time updates as to whether they're gaining, whether they're losing. And interesting, again, you know, this is why I think we're seeing them doing a lot of hand steering, even though they're not boat to boat really tight together. They can still make it feel like they are, because they can, you know, Thomas Rian's down below, and through the intercom or just through a good loud voice, he can say, are you going a little bit too low? You're going a little bit too high. We're going slow. We're going fast. Almost as if that boat, which is 10, 11, 12 miles over the horizon, is just on their hip. Makes the helming a little bit easier. So much work going on here. There's so much work doing all those adjustments. So, I talked a little bit about the negatives. Johan Rochon and Alagrande Mappe losing out big time to the east, trying to go to the east of Ushant. But we need to talk about the positives. So, Pip Hare, she's the person in charge of Canada Ocean Racing, B Ward positive for this leg. Scott Shaw has given her the keys. It was planned that he was going to take this leg on the shore, and they did something really right. Pip was describing the fact that they were coming down towards Ushant with breeze. They could see, not with their eyes, but with the computer, what was happening ahead. They could get a sense of how everyone was parking up, and they thought, right, well, we're not going to follow you into that massive bubble. You know, it would be great to cut through on the inside, but the tide's too strong, the wind is too weak, we're going to go around the outside. A bit of prudency that really paid off. I mean, I think they were in the lead for a reasonable chunk.
Wait, it's not, I don't know how frequently it updates.
So interesting to be able to listen to those little moments. We've got a series of cameras on board. Those cameras sending back the audio, the video, what's happening on the boat. Yeah, you see, there we go. Jack Boutel, two-time winner of the ocean race. If he wants to find out what's going on, he has to look out, try to see that little dot on the other side of the horizon. We can just jump in between boats. We certainly do have the best seat in the house. If you do want to follow up, as I was saying, from all the drama from the start up to this point and beyond, do make sure that you check out the Ocean Race Onboard. It's a bi-weekly show. You can get on TNT Sports, Discovery Plus, Eurosport, HBO Max. So for Biotherm here, we talk about gambling. Johan Rishon, big gambler. Pip Hare playing it a bit safe. Paul Mayer and the crew of Biotherm, they have got a perfect scorecard. They have got maximum points on every bonus gate so far. They have won the last leg. They're currently in the lead. That might change. But if you stop the race at this moment, you would say that they have not put a single foot wrong at all. They really have been sailing well. On board for Patrick. Okay. Is it fair then? Is it fair that Johan Rishon, was it bad luck? Was it bad judgment? Should he have done what he did? Should he have gone that far? Did he need to extend his lead anymore? If you're coming down that way and you think, oh, we can just slip through here on the tide, and then you say, oh no, let's not do it, and you play conservative, and the boats behind you slip through, well then you look like a coward. So maybe you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. We're getting a few questions in, so I'd like to sort of turn it over to you guys and see what you think. So the sailors always seem very relaxed, sitting around or eating. Is this the case, or is there more than meets the eye? Yeah, there's a lot more than meets the eye. There's a lot more than meets the eye. So I'll do my best to kind of give you a very brief idea as to how hard these guys are working and how hard they have been working for the last, I mean, really since this leg began, but certainly since they got into the Bay of Biscay, since the sun rose here. So, for example, we've got Corentin on the helm, winner of the last Solitaire de Figaro. He's got that little dial in front of him, and that dial is giving him all sorts of sensors and readings, where the wind is, how the boat's performing. And he can control where that boat's going, obviously, but none of that means anything if the people below deck are not providing him with just the right amount of power. And to give you just a really, really simple idea, just one thing as to why there is so much going on here. If the boat starts to go a little bit fast, maybe there's a bit of a wave that comes behind it, it just picks you up and you just start moving a little bit. As you move forward, your wind angle changes, the boat rolls a little bit, the whole balance of the boat shifts. And as it shifts, you have to adjust everything with it. Sail's got to move, keel's got to move, everything's got to move. And then, once that's happened, you might ride that for maybe 20 seconds if you're lucky. And then maybe the speed will shift again. Maybe you'll go a little slower. And then everything needs to be shifted back. You don't, of course, have to do that. But then if you don't, you'll go slow. And so this is why we're into this massive drag race at the moment. Oh, and this is a really good question. So this exactly goes on to what I was saying here. What effect does sleep deprivation have on the sailors? Well, I'm not sure what effect it has on the sailors any more than what effect it would have on you or me or anybody else. None of us are holy enough to say that we haven't been driving late at night knowing that we should pull over. And that weird sensation where you think, whoa, what just happened for the last 10 minutes? You know, as your head was sort of nodding and you're really being unsafe. Exactly the same on this. But you've got to make so many decisions as to how to get the best out of the boat. Then there's another factor. You've got to not lose your temper, not lose your cool with the other 4 people that you are cooped up with on this little can. For Team Amala, I think that's a real extreme. The boat that they're sailing on, it's a very black box. It's really bleak. It's really hard to see the sunlight, both physically and metaphorically. Sleep deprivation just shortens that fuse, you know? And then you're going to get to the point where, well, we've just gone from first to last. Well, you know, one person just rigged that up wrong. You know, there was a human error somewhere. I need to take out this massive frustration. Normally I'll be able to bite my tongue, but I'm tired. I'm still angry, but I'm too tired to kind of keep it wrapped up. So sleep deprivation is a certainty. It's a reality. A big impact on performance, but I would say a bigger impact on crew cohesion and dynamics. I'm going to come up with a hypothetical here for Frank Camas. We're seeing him on the winch working really, really hard. So this could be a sail change potentially for Team Holcim PRB. Frank Camas now on the right-hand side of our screen. Roslyn Kuiper, the skipper, on the middle at the top. And they're working something big and hard. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're putting up a new sail, just adjusting the rake of the foil, just making those little adjustments to the boat. But as that breeze is coming up and down, if it changes significantly, you might have to put up a new sail. But here's my question about Frank Camas. Somebody asked me before, or I'm sure a lot of you guys have been thinking, and a lot of you guys will have your own opinions, about the crash between Team Holcim PRB and Alagrande Mappe. Or, to put it another way, between Frank Camas, who was helming Team Holcim PRB, and Ambrosio Beccaria. Now, the rules-wise, I'm not the jury, I'm not making the final call, but I think that Alagrande Mappe is on shaky ground. The rules, I'm pretty confident the rules will basically say that, you know, the crash is their responsibility to bear. But Frank Camas wiped out. Team Holcim PRB wiped out. And it's just interesting to me see how much effort he's putting into this leg, how hard he's working. I know he's a professional, I know he's experienced. But surely you have that little twinge of guilt, that little sense of, I need to slightly make up. Maybe it wasn't his fault, maybe I'm being really unfair. Maybe it was something else, maybe it was just a bad gust. But surely he would imagine, he would put that burden on himself. He would think, oh, if I'd have just done something a little different. So there's a lot going on in that person's mind at the moment, I'm absolutely sure. Okay, so having a little look at some of the other questions. Hi Niall, what would be interesting is a comparison of the different yacht designs. They seem to be different from each other. How and why? How old is each boat? Advantages and disadvantages, thanks from New Zealand. Well, there's an awful lot in that, and I could hazard a guess, but I'd have to bring up so many notes because I can't remember all those facts and figures. But I tell you what I can tell you. So, Alagrande Mappe that we're riding on board at the moment. If I just bring up the tracker just to show you where they are. So, Alagrande Mappe at the moment is this boat that's sort of breaking free, heading more towards the east. But earlier, they were riding right alongside Paprikaker. They're the sister ships. Those two boats are pretty much, I mean, the hull, the outside of the hull, they're pretty much identical. It was really interesting seeing those two side by side, less than a fifth of a mile, sort of trading off each other. And occasionally you get those moments where those boats really do line up and there's nothing between them. So we've got two boats that are pretty much the same as far as the water is concerned as they push their way through it. You've got Biotherm, which is a low, sleek, much smoother boat, and you can tell by Paul Mayer, if you ever stand next to him in the Ocean Life Park, if you ever get your chance to stand next to him, he's a tall guy, and that coach roof is low. So it's a very low boat, and it's quite old. You know, the transom is open, but those sort of boats with Wholesome as well, Paprika, Allegrande Mappe, Biotherm, Wholesome, they're all sort of cut from the same cloth, or at least that's how it looks to me. You've got Team Amala, which is really old, 2019. It's a really old generation. The foil's really different, but my word, is it beautiful. And then you've got Team Milizia. And you only have to look at Team Milizia, how people are standing in the boat, standing free, and just how huge the boat is. And all of them, I mean, there you go. Look at that massive thing that's kind of sticking up from the deck. It's that very sort of square boat. They haven't rounded anything off, or at least some very small attempts to do it. And that's all living quarters. This is the boat that decided, let's make things really comfortable for our team. So we do have quite a few different boats, and there will be advantages and there will be disadvantages. However, you get the tide wrong at Ushant, the breeze doesn't come good for you, and then that's it. So a couple more questions. That extra long manoeuvre was definitely risky by Johan for sure. It's crazy that Wholesome took the same line and are ahead of them. Yeah, that's a really good point. So look, let me just bring this one back, okay? And that will hurt Johan even more for sure, right? So Wholesome have had an absolutely beautiful run. I'm going to just take this one back to here, and then what I'll do is I'll bring it in and we'll just sort of play it on a little bit. So we've got Wholesome here, just one in front of Paprika, and Wholesome here. So we get into this drag race section. All the maneuvers are done. Now this is the hard work that we've been talking about. This is the bit where you need to somehow sort of dig deep. Wholesome still back here. And then they just get these little moments where they just turbocharge, they just push forward, and then they really start to ride it forward. And that is pure hard work. That is, the wind has changed slightly. Shall we adjust the sails? No, there's no point, because in 5 minutes it'll change back. No. You do it. You do it, and you burn the calories, and you burn the mental energy to do it. And then they just absolutely flew. So I think it's a really good point. It's a really good shout out, because it's very easy to be really negative with a lot of the teams and some of the mistakes made. But Wholesome there, it's just pure hard work. And like I say, Frank Camas, that little slight, that little black ghost on his shoulder, he just wants to get it off. He wants to go, look, I can really go for this. And they did. And then that raises a really interesting question about this boat as well for Rosie. Who's the skipper? Who's in charge? Has Rosie sort of set up the perfect working environment? And Pip Hare, Brian Thompson, and the rest of the crew who are taking control of the boat in Scott Shaw's absence. I'm sure he's keeping up with every update on the shore. For Pip Hare, the conservative approach worked. But how long can you be conservative for? They've already slipped their way back into third, then into fourth. When it's a pure boat speed battle, they don't quite seem to have the edge yet. They're sort of learning. But, yeah. Okay, so another comment. Hello, everyone. Any news about when the jury will evaluate and judge the keel collision responsibilities and penalty? Go, Allegrande, go. Yeah, they are going well. They're going bold as well, because they're really breaking free. We'll have to see exactly what happens. Okay, that's a really good point. So it's just procedural. The protest forms have been put in. The jury knows what they have to do. They just have to wait for an opportunity to get Allegrande Mappe, Wholesome PRB in a room together, and they can discuss what happened. Obviously, there's helicopter footage, there's all sorts of evidence, but they just need to wait for that point. They would have done it in Portsmouth, but the two boats didn't make it to Portsmouth. And it would have been a bit mean to get them to do that in Kiel when they were all sort of up to their elbows in resin and carbon fibre and repairing everything. So that decision is coming soon. Okay. So can we expect the fleet to spread more, or is it possible that they will be very close the entire leg? I think that the big reasons that we see that spread is because there are multiple routes that will get you to the finish line. We could go north, we could go east, we could go south. Well, I mean, that would be crazy navigationally, but you know what I mean. We can go all sorts of different ways. You know, the wind has got lots of possibilities. There isn't really too many possibilities. I know I just said earlier, and I'll put it back up, that at the moment, with the wind coming down here, it's putting everybody on a reach, with the wind coming in from the northwest, that Alagrande Mape is kind of breaking free, but only by about 10 miles. Might be quite a lot, actually, in this short sprint leg. But I don't see us splitting a lot. And that's hard for, I think, Team Imala, because it means they need to find a little bit of boat speed. Somebody else is asking about Team Imala has those older foils. Yeah, this is the Team Imala is the boat with the older foils. 2019, used to be Hugo Boss. It's still a wonderfully good-looking boat. The deck is incredible. It's so sleek. But the foils are old-style sea foils. If you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. I barely know what it means as well. But the only thing you do need to know is the foils cannot be fully retracted from the water. The system that they use, the shape, the way they're mounted in the boat means that they always stick a bit into the water. So for the team, when it does get light, they have a little bit of a handicap. I'm not sure what that must feel like when you're putting in all this effort and you know that maybe it's not quite a fair fight. You know that, well, all things being equal, our boat isn't quite as quick as yours. But then that's where you have to make the right navigational decisions or some way. The only problem is those navigational decisions seem to be run now. So a couple more other questions. It's crazy that a team like Be Water Positive can have their skipper miss a leg. Doesn't that completely disrupt the team in the race? Well, don't forget, not just Be Water Positive, but also Team Milizia. We haven't seen a lot of Boris Herman. Boris Herman's off for this leg as well, and not just off for they're racing down to Porto for this flyby, but it's an incredibly long leg. It goes all the way to Cartagena, so it's a big leg to miss. Now, what I know from both those teams is this was always planned. It was always planned that Scott Scheuer and Boris Herman from their respective boats would step ashore, hand the keys over, let somebody else kind of flex their muscles and give it a go. I think it kind of speaks to the value of the team and who they've got on board, that they can set the boat up, and when they do sort of hand those keys over, the engine is running, the boat is tuned up, they know what they're doing. So it's quite normal, and quite possibly it's because those key players are thinking, I'm going to save my brain power for the Mediterranean, where I might need it. Alan on Amala looks like a pretty chilled out. Oh, hang on, let's have a little listen. All those numbers linked to different sensors on the boat. Every sensor. So just adjusting the rake on the left-hand foil, turning the hydraulic tap to align with whether you're either providing more, providing less, then working the pump. So then the rake on that foil just changing a little bit. Watching the number on the computer screen. A little bit more, a little bit less, then just checking with the speeds, is everything loading up? Has that had a positive effect on the boat? Walking back over, checking those numbers again. Maybe in a minute, walking to the back of the boat, having a little look at the wind, checking through the bubble to see if the sails are still pulling well. Then going back again. Interesting, they're setting up the comms unit. So this is the headset. So Brian is obviously going to go to the back of the boat, have a look outside, and he can talk without shouting to Pip, who's going to be in the cockpit. On board with Team Wholesome PRB. Great, really good comment. Does the colour of the foils make them faster? Yes, absolutely it makes them faster. Because if your boat looks fast, it makes you feel fast. And if you feel fast, you sail fast. And I am not just making that up. That is absolutely true. any single one of you that has a dinghy will know that your dinghy is always faster if you have a brand new cover on it. If you make it look nice.
We had around 10 to 14 knots. My watch went to 14 and we have the same speed and the wind got it's shifting between 3 and
I'm just trying to get an update from Rosie, but I don't think the connection's just giving out on that audio there. But they're all just hunched around this screen. They're all just staring at those numbers, those sensors, just making those little tweaks. I mean, the amount of data that the boat can feed them will completely make your head spin. And anybody that does a little sailing before really normally have some telltales. Tiny little strip of wool just hanging from the front of your sail. You might have 1, 2, maybe 3. And if they flap, it means you've got to do one thing with the sail. And if they curl, it means you've got to do something else with the sail. They've got maybe 150 sensors on board the boat. So I'm used to dealing with, 1 or 2 little visual clues. They're dealing with so many. And it's incredibly easy to drown in this. But it's okay because they've had a really good night's sleep, right? Another question here from Georgia, one of our OBRs, who is not sailing this leg. Hi, Georgia. Do the cycling sunglasses give them more aero on the boat? Again, yes, 100%. Definitely makes the boat go fast. Although I'm guessing you should probably be answering that question, Georgia. Emily Grassi just at the back, just having a look out. Where's that breeze? Is it here? There's clouds coming over now. Just in case you didn't have enough stress in your life about, are we on the right sail? Are we sailing the boat right? Is the heel right? Oh, what do the sensors say? And you're juggling all that while you're probably just thinking about the first fresh meal you're going to have when you get to Cartagena. You now have some clouds coming over. And with it, some swirl in the breeze, maybe some more, maybe some less. So these people that are down below at the moment, having some well-deserved rest. This is the most important job you have on the boat, recharging your batteries. And for the winners of the last edition of the Ocean Race, 11th Hour Racing Team, they put in days and weeks and months of research and design into finding just the right mattress for their Amoca 60. And I don't mean size, but the fillings. This kind of foam, that kind of foam, sand, straw, feathers, all sorts of stuff, so that you could just hit it with your body and boom, you could just go straight down. It's comparatively quite a big wind. Interesting that earlier we did see Rosalind Kuiper, Frank Camas. It did seem to be that they were either they were putting a sail up or they were making some sort of major change on the boat. And maybe with these clouds, it is just bringing around that little bit of difference in breeze. Keeping our sailors working hard, stopping them from getting too much sleep. Although, that shot now from Team Milizia, I would never go so far as to say that the water is flat and smooth, but it is a lot smoother than it could have been. So there is a chance that you get a chance to sleep, to recharge. And have a look at that. You've got Will Harris just in the back. Justin Matrew is the sailor closest to the camera working. But Will Harris here in the back. So what he's doing there is he is next to their cook station. And they've got a carbon fiber bucket with a gimbaled cooking system that kind of works its way around in the waves. And really simple stuff. But again, being able to cook on the boat and get those calories into you means that you can feel a bit better, not lose your temper, think clearly, sleep and work hard. And he's not moving hot water there. He's just having a little bit of a little bit of fresh water into his bottle. But from the kettle, you boil the kettle, you pour it into the food hydrates and you eat that. Sounds really simple. Boiling hot water. boiling hot water on an Imoca where you are bashing around. That is really okay, really good. So we just had a comment. Have the teams changed how they cook since Boris's burn in 2023? Yeah, is exactly where my brain's going as well. They have, and so many of them. They always had the sort of little gimbal cookers. They tend to build their own really minimalist style, but a lot of them have been fitting pipes and taps so that when the water is up to 100 degrees, which is what you need it to be to rehydrate the food and cook everything, it's just a simple tap rather than dangerously trying to sort of pour water. And it's not just Boris that's been injured. We've had many sailors across the Imoca fleet, solo sailors as well, but really faring quite badly from burns. Alla grande mappe. And my eye goes straight away to the yellow waterproofs, because are they going to have to go on deck? Are they going to have to make some of those adjustments that we saw Team Holston PRB doing? 2 sails up at the moment. Is it time for a third? So last chance for a quick bit of calories before they need to jump out there and do a little bit of work. But so, I mean, what is going to come up? What is happening here? Why are we seeing all these little changes? Let me bring up the tracker here, and I'm going to pull nicely out so we get sort of like the full leg. Okay, they're really packed together. We've got the leaderboard, obviously, but realistically, we could see the fleet moving inside and out. We could see the Paprikakea making their way through. I mean, let's be honest, they're an incredibly fast team. But how is the breeze going to help or hinder this? If we put the wind on, right now they're riding in some nice wind, and ahead of them it doesn't look great. But if we just drag this forward a little bit, let's just have a little bit of a look. So if we move that forecast on, you can see that, well, it's staying with them. That's through the night. So this is now sort of sunrise tomorrow morning. And that's looking rather nice all the way down that rum line. If we move it all the way through, until we get to sort of Wednesday in the morning, and it's still really nice breeze. So we're not expecting anybody to park up, slow down. I'd expect it to get tougher in terms of the physicality of this race. I'd expect it to get rougher, harder to sleep, harder to eat, harder to recharge. This is somewhere between a marathon and a sprint. This is nowhere near as long as going around the world and spending a month and a half in the Southern Ocean. But this is also a lot more than just going out for a 24-hour smash. And last night, very, very few boats got anything more than 20 minutes, half an hour sleep for the whole night. And I can't see the chances for good sleep improving. I think it's going to get worse. So I think for all these teams, they really need to find something. For Paprikakea, the opportunities to gamble are running out. Tactically, I think we're sort of seeing a lot of that played out. Now it's just who can go the fastest. Is that good for Johan Richomme? Is that like, okay, cool, I've made some big calls, I got them right, I made some big calls and I got them wrong. Now I'm just going to worry about speed. Maybe that's a really good thing for him. For Holston PRB, certainly looks good at the moment. They've been sailing really, really, really fast, and that should continue. Militia, they want it as windy as possible. Maybe everybody's kind of hoping now that we just get into that good old drag race. Everyone kind of backs themselves. But yeah, we'll have to see. There's the body language on this particular boat. They need to find that belief in themselves that we have seen in the early stages of the first leg. I think they are still wearing the scars of last night. And this is where you need to find some way, some win, something to pick yourself up. We need Pascal Bidigary to come on deck and go, guys, in the last 6 hours we've gained this many miles on this boat, this many miles on this boat. If we keep that pace up, we can get back to first, we can get back to second. Somehow you've got to find yourself getting into it and kind of going. All right, we're gonna leave the fleet. We're going to leave the fleet sailing. We're going to leave the sailors. I'm going to make myself another cup of tea. Might get myself a good meal, and I'll think about them long and hard while they are continuing to push their way out. Right now, these conditions are really, really, really nice. If they had just started and finished here, we would be seeing smiles across everybody's face. But sadly, they have got to this little peak in comfort from a relentless drive for speed and a really restless night. How long they can keep that up for? Who might be the next boat to make a really bad decision through the next night when that sleep deprivation really starts to kick in? I don't know. Hopefully it's not going to be as bad as I forgot to support some part of the boat and now that part of the boat is cracking or worse. Hopefully it'll just come down to points. But right now, I think we can expect this fleet to stay pretty tight together, keep their foot firmly on the throttle, and this is going to be tight all the way to that flyby in Porto. 7 points for the first boat. Beatherm still hoping for the clean sweep. Team Amala looking to catch up a little bit. Let's see what's happening. Thanks for joining us.